Hey, this is Deepesh, and in this video I'm going to take you through the simple way how I drill down into campaigns, ad sets, and ads and use what I call the ads sniper strategy to determine which ads I want to pause, which ones are working, and which ones I need to action. So this example is a real simple account. It's a lead gen account to collect emails through the lead generation forms. And what I'm going to show you here is what metrics I'm looking at and how I drill down. So first of all, the goal for this particular account is to keep the cost per lead at around £2.90 or below, which is roughly $4. And so we have two campaigns running at the moment. The main campaign I'm concerned about is my high spender. The other one's currently on test. And so I'm looking at the last 7 days by default here. When I'm looking at the ad sniper strategy, generally I want to be looking at the last 3 days. The reason is that ad performance over 3 days is a good indicator of overall how things are going. If you've got a big spend account, then you could look at 1 or maybe 2 days, but 3 days generally gives a good even view of what's going on. This is something that I would use on a daily basis. You can do it first thing in the morning to look at yesterday, day before, and the day before that's performance. You can determine what you need to do next. So here we can see at the moment overall the account is kind of doing okay. Our test is a bit off, but I'm going to drill down into this particular asset. I'm going to look at the last 3 days here. So if I just load those up. Now what I want to also be doing is not just looking at the average. I want to look at the breakdown because it may be hidden in there that there was a particularly good day and maybe a bad day as well. So here, for example, we can see the 3 days here. We started off at £3, dropped it and dropped it. At the same time, the spend has also been dropping. So that's something I would want to pick up. And I'm also looking at the other supporting metrics. So my key metric here is cost per lead. And I can see here that my click-through rate has actually been improving and my cost per click has remained static. What that tells me is I am getting the more clicks through. And certainly my CPL has dropped with better quality traffic, and here the click-through rate wasn't as high and I wasn't getting the cost per lead ideally that I'd be looking for. So some changes have been made on the positive front, but with the drop in spend we have been reducing the spend down to try and get that performance up, and now's a good time to bring it back. So if I drill down into here, what I'm looking at is my average performance by day and over the 3 days, and figuring out at the ad set level which particular ad sets are performing or not. And so what I want to do here is first of all break that down by the overall 3-day period and scan across these ad sets that are in operation and figure out which ones need the most attention. So first thing I want to do is list it by the amount spent so I know which ones are the priority ones to look at. So immediately we can see here that this one is slightly over our target, this one is way over target, this one is way over target, etc, etc. And here we've got a few ad sets that are below target. So with the ad sets that are above target, I know I need to do optimization. The ones below target, I know I need to push growth. So they're the two things that I'm looking at here right now. And you can see from these spend levels, they're fairly new ad sets comparatively, haven't spent as much, and so there's growth opportunities for us to push here. Now with this particular one here, we've spent the most, £187, and our cost per lead is about 20 pence higher than it should be. So the first thing I'm doing here is to scan across my kind of softer metrics, my CTR and CPC, and I'm comparing it to the average for the campaign down here. So on average, I have a 1.49%, and this particular ad set is doing way better than the average. So from a click-through point of view, it's doing great, but from a cost per click point of view, it's not doing so great. Now, the cost per click is being brought down by some of these other ad sets. So if I kind of look at the other ad sets which are performing with a higher cost per lead, the cost per click is actually higher. So comparatively, it's not as bad, but you can see the CPMs are more expensive here. So this particular ad set, we're going after more kind of prime audiences, so it's kind of costing us to do more there. And so one thing that I am looking at now is if I drill down into that particular ad set, are there any ads that are out of kilter based on my kind of average performance? So again, I'm looking at cost per lead here for this particular ad set, which is £3.12, and I can see immediately that there's an even spend on these two ad sets here, £19, but one is performing far worse than the other. So if you look across the metrics here, which is quite interesting, the click-through rate is 1.22% for that ad and 1.23% for this ad here. So there's no major difference. Both are way below the ad set average, which was brought up by these two ads which are no longer running. Now if we look at our cost per click, the ad set with a higher cost per lead has a cheaper cost per click, and the ad set with a lower cost per lead has a higher cost per click. Now how does that happen? Well, actually it comes down to conversion rate and how many people are converting once they click through. So because this is a lead gen campaign within Facebook, you can see here we've had 5 in 16 that have converted versus 8 in 12. And so then there will be something about this particular ad which, whilst it's generating a higher cost in the auction, it's more expensive to push this one through, it's converting a lot better as well. And so therefore the cost per lead is better for this one. Now my strategy here would be to pause this ad out. So I'm going to pause that ad right now, and I want to give this winning ad a bit more of a chance to run. And so because there's now only 2 ads running, it will push more towards this particular ad here. This ad will pick up as well. But what I will also be doing is looking to introduce a new ad into play as well. So for this particular ad that I've paused, I know that the click-through rate is good. So something in the ad is appealing, but when it hits the form, something isn't quite matching up. And so what I want to do is then iterate this particular ad, maybe just tweak the copy, maybe see if I can pull something out of this ad to push into the ad that isn't converting as well, and see if I can bring performance back. So I know now if the spend continues and the performance continues for this particular ad, that my cost per lead will come down. The other thing I will note is it's worth breaking it out by day to actually see the trends of the different ads as well. So this one, for example, it started off at £2.96 CPL and then rose to double that essentially, and then dropped down to nothing as well. And our kind of winning ad at the moment has really just started to kick in. So Facebook has brought that in. So I'm going to let that one continue to run. This particular ad here has a really good click-through rate and a low CPC. Because of the small spend, it's only had 1 click at the moment. Now, with the 2 ads running, more spend will fall into that. And I imagine if the conversion rate continues, this may continue to be this may become our winning ad. So that's something I'm also looking out for. The other thing just to mention is where you see an ad that was performing well stop performing, sometimes it comes down to comments in the ad. So this one here, for example, £2.96 on the first and £5.41 here, it may well be that someone has started to make negative comments on your ad. So when you do see performance dropping at the ad level for an ad that seemingly performed okay, you know, from experience of doing this for many years, quite often it comes down to negative comments. What I would do in this situation is hide those negative comments. If you delete it, then the person that made the comment will be notified and they'll probably get a bit annoyed and they'll probably put another negative comment on. Probably worse, go to your page and leave a negative review. So just hide the comment. It means the person that made the comment will still be able to see it. Their friends will be able to see it, but new people on the ad won't see it. You know, if you think about it, you're paying for that ad to hit the newsfeed. It's a paid ad, and if you put this in any other context, you know, you've got a billboard or you've got leaflets you're handing out, how would you feel if someone's just written in there, this person sucks, this service sucks? It's graffiti, right? So you need to take that graffiti out of your ad. It doesn't belong there. Obviously the comment section is a free-for-all, anyone can make a comment, but it's your ad, you're in control. So don't leave it there if you're not comfortable with it. And make sure you are taking those comments out. So that was a quick run through of kind of how I'm drilling down at the campaign level to find campaigns that have good or bad performance, going into the ad set and finding the ad sets that need the most attention, and then drilling down into the ad level and pausing, starting and changing things around. So now if I go back to the ad set level, and let's just break this back into, group it into the day period I've got. So here, let's just go back to amount spent. So we've analyzed this. I would then go through and analyze these ones systematically in the same way as well. Now, conversely, we have a couple of ad sets here which are performing extremely well. So 89 pence cost per lead here. So if I drill down into that one in particular, we have 3 ads running again, and you can do the same thing again. For example, I know that the average in the ad set is 2.8% click-through rate, the cost per click is 45 pence, and look at the averages again, and we can see here that this particular ad set is this particular ad is absolutely flying. Click-through rate is off the scale as far as the other ads go and as far as the other ad sets go, and the cost per click is so much better as well. However, it's only had a £3.94 spend, so is that statistically valid? Possibly not. Generally, when I'm looking at validation, I'm looking at around 5,000 impressions to give me confidence that these numbers are legit, that they can kind of stand the test of time as well. And also, you don't get the relevance score until you've hit 500 impressions. So that's another thing that you want to wait for, because if this ad for any reason fell over before or just about hitting 500 impressions and hit a low relevance score, then I guarantee these cost per click numbers will increase as well. So for me, I want to leave these 3 ads continually running. They're performing extremely well overall. Now, as soon as I start to see more and more significance in terms of impressions, I also may want to start pausing some ads out as well. So let's say, for example, this now has 3,000, 4,000 impressions, pushing up to 5,000, and I've got more confidence in these numbers. If that being the case, and my cost per leads were continuing at this rate, then I would probably pause out these 2 ads and let this ad continue running, let that one take the kind of focus, and maybe start iterating these ads to try and bring them back to this level, both in terms of click-through rate and cost per click. Obviously, the cost per leads are still within range, but why settle? If I'm getting a 56 pence cost per lead, regardless of what my target is, I want even more of those. I don't want to double it to 99 pence. So that's just something to bear in mind. It's not just about sniping ads that are doing well. It's also, not sniping ads that are not doing well. It's also sniping ads that are doing well as well, and pushing for that performance from those different ad sets. And different ad sets perform in different ways. If you look at rules and automations, for example, how would you determine ad set by ad set what a good range is? If I look at this particular ad set here, I know that it's above my £2.90 target, so I could probably set some automations in place that say cut these ads as soon as they're anywhere above £2.90, and that'd be great. You pause your ads out and maybe cycling new ads. But for this one here, how do I know that 89 pence actually isn't as good as it could be? Because I know, looking manually, there's an ad performing at half of that cost per lead. I want more of those, and this is where automations sometimes fall over, and that's why I prefer to teach you the manual method, so that when you do think about automations, you're thinking a bit broader and not just letting the machines decide. Because if you're getting such a good cost per lead, the machine would just let that run. It may run into £1, £1.50, when behind the scenes there's an ad running at 50 pence, and you could just scale that intensively, and that's way below your cost per lead target. So just bear that in mind as you're analyzing your stats and looking at your data, that you want to look at the bad ad sets and the good ad sets and optimize both as well.